Kentucky basketball took it down to the wire against the Alabama Crimson Tide, and they just couldn't execute down the stretch.
You are Locked On Kentucky, your daily podcast on the Kentucky Wildcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
That's probably one of the best college basketball games we're going to get this season, and it's such a shame that Kentucky comes out on the losing end. What's going on, Big Blue Nation? Welcome on into Locked On Kentucky. I'm your host, Lance Dawe, recapping Kentucky basketball's 102-97 win over the Alabama Crimson Tide, a game that Kentucky absolutely could have won. And yet here we are recapping a loss. Going to be breaking down this one for you, the positives, the negatives. I think that in this game, you kind of just got beat, and you could have won, and it is what it is. There's no officiating gimmick, although we will talk about that. There's no massive frustration. Obviously, there's some defensive issues we'll get to, but it's kind of just a loss to one of the better teams in the nation. Thank you guys so much for making Locked On Kentucky your first listen every single day. I want to remind everyone out there that we are free and available on all platforms. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the show. If you're listening on podcast, you can subscribe there as well. Let's go ahead and get into it. I definitely did not just spend the last 35 minutes recording an episode only to finish the show and realize that my mic was muted the entire time. So we're going to do it again. We're going to back this one up. We're going to talk about this one all over again. Definitely not something I'm against right now. Of course, there are a lot of different interesting things that happened in this game. I think that the way that Kentucky played offensively was good enough to win. But a lot of what you do on the defensive end is going to win or lose you ball games. Mark Pope said it in the post-game press conference. Some of the things that Kentucky was fighting: fatigue, injury, frustration. I think that was a shot at the officials, which is probably the most you're going to get out of Mark Pope when it comes to officiating this season, unless it gets worse, which it absolutely can. I think that's clear. But yeah, Kentucky in this game didn't do enough down the stretch to win it. Again, 97 points on pretty efficient shooting, especially considering your opponent. You couldn't keep him off the foul line, and you couldn't stop Grant Nelson. We've continued to talk in these preview and recap episodes about matching up with the opposing team's physical forwards. And Kentucky, game in and game out, doesn't have a dude to do that. They do not have somebody at the 4 to guard the opposing 4. And look, the fact that Kentucky's even 3-2 right now in the SEC, after having played Florida, Georgia, Mississippi State, Texas A&M, and Alabama, it's impressive. It is impressive. This team was put together in about a month and a half, late last spring. These kids didn't even know each other this time last year. Most of them didn't. Most of them didn't know Mark Pope outside of Jax. That's it. And you've beaten Florida. You've beaten State. You've beaten A&M. That's 3 top 25 teams, according to Ken Pom. You played 3 straight games against AP top 15 teams. It's hard to win and just keep winning, especially given the circumstances. This is a tough league with a lot of tough teams, and it's hard to win. And it's hard to beat a team like Alabama, who can beat you in so many different ways. It's interesting to me, for those of you that watch the show, and there were some of you in the comments saying some of the things that I was saying in the preview episode, which is like, this is a good Alabama team. This is like one of the best teams in the country, a team that can absolutely win the national championship. They have good guard play. They play well down low. Their defense has significantly improved. They play well in transition. They shoot the 3. They've got a good coach. I mean, this is a very well-rounded squad. And yet there was a large section of Kentucky fans out there that were running headfirst into this one. And I understand the confidence, expecting to win. Kentucky was favored. This is Mark Pope's first loss in Rupp Arena where he was favored. And there are a lot of Kentucky fans just running headfirst into this one saying, Bama's overrated. They're not very good. We're going to blow them out. It's just like, do you understand kind of what we're going up against here? I mean, this is the exact same thing as the Florida game, except things didn't work your way for the final 5 minutes or so. Florida is one of the best teams in the nation, full stop. Alabama is one of the best teams in the nation, full stop. Congratulations. Your reward for playing all these teams is by going on the road to Vanderbilt, who is absolutely not a doormat. Very good team. And then you get to play on the road at Tennessee, who is also one of the best teams in the nation, probably better than Florida and Bama, probably, because of what they can do to you defensively. So, credit Alabama. It's a good team. Frankly, the two things that I think lost you this game were the inability to prevent Grant Nelson from driving to the rim and the 14 extra free throws that Alabama took. Which, well, let's just go ahead and get that out of the way. For the most part, the free throws that Alabama earned were warranted. They went and drove to the basket over and over and over again. Kentucky does not have a player on their roster that can consistently defend personnel like Alabama has without fouling them or giving up a basket or both. Nelson, a 6'10", 6'11", transfer from North Dakota State, you can find him anywhere, gentlemen, outmuscled you in this game. 6'11", 230, drove to the rim, and scored with efficiency. On top of this and the free throw shooting, I don't think the three ball is necessarily what beat you today as far as the entire game goes. It's certainly what beat you in the final few minutes. But as far as the entirety of the game, you didn't, as Kentucky, you understand this is one of the best three-point shooting teams in America. Like, they make more than almost anybody. And yet you continued to, whenever they set screens to get their shooters open, you continued to go under? You realize that Mark Sears or Nelson or whoever it is, Holloway, Youngblood, Phylon, who had a couple big threes in the second half, you understand, like, they're going to pull. Like, that's their whole philosophy, is they're going to shoot the ball. You realize you have to step out on that, right? And maybe your argument is, well, if you step out and overcommit, they're going to drive to the basket. You got to pick your poison here. You kind of have to. The 2 threes that Grant Nelson hit at the beginning of the game were crucial. Massive for this one. If you don't get those, this game's either won by Kentucky or it's going to OT. And yet it doesn't happen. We'll continue to break this one down. I've got thoughts on individual performances. Statistically, some of the things that happened in this game might shock you. They shocked me. Before we dive into that, though, I want to tell you guys about our friends over at Game Time. Attending the new 12-team college football playoff games are an incredible experience, obviously. Brings fans together like never before. Excitement of past playoff games were really awesome, but making new memories with the updated format and extra teams involved is also really special. And Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for events even easier. It filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. I use Game Time for everything. I use it for college football, college basketball, MLB games in the past whenever I want to go see the Braves. I've used them exclusively to go watch concerts. I've used them for a theater event once. It is the place you need to go if you want to go get tickets to literally any live event in your area. They're super easy to use, and you can get in, get out, get your tickets where you want them, how you want them. Total cost up front, by the way, so you don't have to get to checkout and be shocked by extra fees or anything like that. On-time ticket delivery. They've got the lowest price guarantee for everything. You can get peace of mind and take the guesswork out of buying your tickets. Let's say you want to go see Kentucky play Vanderbilt next Saturday. Well, you can go to Game Time, download the Game Time app, create an account, and if you use code LOCKEDONCollege, you can get $20 off your first purchase. Would be a pretty sweet deal to go see the Commodores in Nashville again next Saturday. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONCollege. That's LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right, continuing along here on the Saturday edition of Locked On Kentucky. Lance Dawe hanging out here with you again, re-recording This breakdown of Kentucky basketball's 102-97 loss to the Alabama Crimson Tide. Cats just simply failed down the stretch. You got to tie it at 81, and then the Lamont Butler turnover, and then you couldn't get stops, and you were so close to either taking the lead, making this back and forth, taking this thing to OT. But again, you could not get stops down the stretch, and when you couldn't execute on the offensive end. Big time threes missed in this one, man. Big time threes missed in this one. And it was too little too late at the end of the game. You got down by 9. You tried to make something come back, or you tried to make something happen. You tried to come back. It just couldn't work. Let's take a look at the individual performances here, because I do want to praise a couple of guys. We're going to start here with Otega Oweh. Oweh played great. He is as consistent of a player that I've seen in blue and white in a long time. 21 points, 8 of 14 from the floor. He had 6 rebounds, 3 assists, a block and a steal, +3, plus-minus box score. Second highest on the team here today. He's good. And if he's back next year, I think he should be a preseason All-American. And I think that he's going to be one of the best players in the SEC. He already is. I am thoroughly impressed with this pickup from Mark Pope. He's a great player. Great player on both ends. He and Brandon Garrison played the best today, in my opinion, and the box score reflects that. Garrison finished with a team-high +6 in plus-minus box score, and some impressive statistics along with it. 11 points, 5 of 7 from the floor. He had 6 rebounds. Get this, 5 assists, no turnovers. Second on the team now in assist rate in 19 minutes of play. 11, 6, 5, no turnovers. It's good stuff. Made a 3, too. He's 1 of 3. He continues to hit, man. I don't get it, but he's knocking them down. Almanor came off the bench, had 10 points, 2 of 4 from 3, missed a big-time 3 in that second half that we needed, but still not terrible. 3 rebounds, 4 fouls. You got some bench production. You got 21 points from Kobe, Garrison, and Almanor. Perry had a couple of wide blank and open shots today, and he missed them both. He's a freshman. He'll grow. Hopefully. Let's talk about somebody that didn't play well today. And that's Amari Williams, who, according to the box score here, had the worst day out of anybody, -15. Amari, for all of the things he does well, rebounding the ball, playing aggressive at times, he doesn't seem to lock in on offense like you need him to. And when you're not getting a decent performance from him defensively, things kind of start to fall apart. He could not protect the rim in this game against Grant Nelson or Alabama's players that were driving to the rim. He had 13 points, 11 rebounds. Frankly, he should have had more points because he was 5 of 11 from the floor. Missed tip-ins, missed shots off of post moves. There were a couple different times where he had the ball and he could have just dunked it, but he elects to lay it in with his left hand, arguably a little too hard off the glass. You're a 6'11", 260-pound man. God has granted you the height and weight of a person that you rarely come across, bro. You are unique. You have a special skill set. Dunk the freaking ball next time you get it, man. It's not hard. At 6'11", it is sure not hard. -15 today and plus-minus. You got to put your hands up a little bit more guarding the rim, too. And you can't jump over people and try and foul him. Fouled out in this game. We'll get to the officiating later. Amari did not play well. Garrison outplayed him. We've continued to say that, and it's a question of at what point, do you make changes? And I'm not saying starting changes. I'm saying minute changes. I think Garrison has more upside. I just think he does. And if you want to say Amari's got more in the post, I don't think he does. I just don't. He hasn't shown it. Just because he has the ability to dribble and put his left shoulder in and float it up and miss it doesn't make it better. Carr being hurt, it was clear he was hurt in this game, and it sucked. 4 points, 1 of 4 from the floor. 4 fouls, man. He hardly played. It felt like even though he had 18 minutes, he couldn't stay in front of Nelson. And I think most of it, part of it, had to do with the fact that he was hurt. Kentucky needs to get healthy. They need a week to go, and they need a week to get healthy. You, again, offensively did enough. Collectively, you did enough. Brea was 2 of 3 from 3. It was a good offensive performance for him. Jax hit 3 threes. He was 4 of 10 from the floor, but all I'm caring about is that 3-point percentage, man, and it's going up. Still going up. Butler was 40% from beyond the arc today. Otega hit a big 3 late. Again, a little too late there for Oweh and company. But you hit 11 threes. You shot 40.7% from 3. And here's the kicker for me. We'll have to go ahead and dive into the stats. You beat Bama in a lot of statistics here. This was a team that whenever we got into keys to the game, you have to keep them off the free throw line, you have to slow them down, and you have to hold Mark Sears. You slowed him down a little bit. You didn't hold Sears, who had 24 points, 9 assists, and 1 turnover. He also had 4 3-pointers. Don't care if it was 4 of 12. He still hit 4 threes. You couldn't hold Sears. You couldn't keep him off the foul line. 29 of 34 there where the Crimson tied. But, I mean, look at this. You shot 3% better from the floor. You made 5 more field goals. You shot 3% better from 3. You had less turnovers. You were almost even in points off turnovers. You had more second chance points. You had more bench points. You had 10 more points in the paint. You had 6 more points in fast break. You had 5 more blocks, 3 more steals, just as many assists. And you lost. Alabama had 15 offensive rebounds, 15 second chance points. Again, it was 5 less than you, but still, those were crucial, man. A couple big threes in that second half. Threes, again, were not the reason you lost this game. You couldn't stop a drive to the basket, but man, would you like to have those possessions back. You couldn't stop Nelson. You couldn't stop Sears. Philon had a couple big buckets. Chris Youngblood, the South Florida transfer, stepped up late in this one. Bama, they've got a good team. But statistically, this to me, again, is just like the Florida game. And you couldn't find a way to win this one. Very similar to the Tennessee game from a season ago. You couldn't find a way to win. Play this game 10 times, probably win 6 or 7 of them. I think you win more often than you lose because it's in Rupp. But you play this in Tuscaloosa, probably not winning a ton. This is a good team. Hats off to Nate Oates. Hats off to Alabama. Kentucky now drops to 87th in adjusted defensive efficiency, 14-4 overall, projected to go 21-10, 10-8. You got to hit more shots, man. You got to hit more shots. You got to prevent buckets. You can't turn the ball over in crucial moments. Butler's 1 turnover of the day sucked. By the way, Butler 17 points, 8 assists, 1 turnover of his own, 4 rebounds. 2 of 5 from 3. He shot a better percentage than Sears did from the floor, but Sears outplayed him, I think, offensively overall still. Butler's so good, man. He's still so good. I'm proud of this team. I like this team. Your reward for playing 3 straight top 15 opponents is going to Vandy and then playing Tennessee. And oh, by the way, Arkansas on February 1st. Woohoo! Yeah, sucks. I want to wrap up the show here talking a little bit about officiating. It sucked in this game both ways. Saw a lot of you saying that. Like, it wasn't just like a Kentucky got jobbed or Bama got jobbed. It was a, hey, man, that sucked. It's it's not one of those where you come out of it and the excuse can be made of like, well, officiating's hard. Or I don't know, he didn't have a good look at it. It's hard. We got to stop. We have to stop defending these people. We have to stop defending these officials. It's pathetic. You have to call the game one way or another way. You can't just go back and forth between them and decide, well, one trip, I'm going to call absolutely nothing. I'm going to let Amari Williams get thrown around and nothing's called. And then the very next possession, somebody gets hand checked and you throw a whistle up. Aiden Holloway got called for a foul for standing in Kobe Brea's cylinder. He hardly touched him. It was awful both ways. It was pathetic. There was an over the back call that I saw that was like, I don't know if that's over the back, guys. Oh, there were a couple over the back calls in this game where it's like, yeah, you can't just like fly over with and hit the guy in the head with the back of the head with your nuts. You can't do that. But man, it's watching the game unfold with three different people with eyes on the court, able to make calls. It cannot be that difficult. It cannot be that difficult, especially considering how long they've been in the profession. They've been doing this forever, guys. And they suck. They suck. There's no other way to put it. SEC, it's not SEC officiating, by the way. I want to be clear. It is college basketball officiating. These guys get games all across college basketball. They all suck. None of them call the game consistently. That's what I'm upset about. It's not calling it consistently. If you're going to call hand check fouls, call it every blanking time down the floor. If you're going to let them play, let them throw each other into the stands and swallow that whistle. Stop doing this crap where you have possessions, back-to-back possessions, where you call one thing and then you don't call it on the other end. Stop it. Your officiating crew tonight. Trying to pull this up here real quick, and Stats Broadcast is taking a moment. Joe Lindsay, Steven Anderson, Patrick Evans. Someone needs to figure this crap out, man, because it is high time. I'm calling for jobs. It is high time that somebody either gets fired or they get held accountable and fined or something. They can't just continue to get away with, it's hard to call it. I don't know. Was that a foul? Man, I don't know. You have to be able to change something at some point. It's ridiculous. You saw that game. You saw that game. If you're on Twitter, if you exist online, you saw the game where Fordham and UMass played a game here just a couple of nights ago, where I'm trying to pull it up here. In the A10, where both of them shot, it was a combined like over 100 free throws. It was 121-18. In 3 overtimes. Massachusetts, 37 of 57. Fordham, 48 of 65. A combined near 80 fouls called. 9 guys fouled out, I think. What the crap are we doing? Maybe they took a good hard look at the book beforehand and they're like, okay, well, we're going to call every single hand check. We're going to call every single arm bar. And if they're going to keep fouling, too bad. Maybe it's going to take a few more of those type games from officiating crews to change the sport. Because if they would call crap more consistently, offenses would do less. The offensive explosion that we've seen this season analytically would be significantly tamped down if the game was called correctly. But it's not. It's not. And again, I'm not mad for the sake of Kentucky. I'm not mad for the sake of Alabama. I'm mad for the sake of our sport. It's pathetic. The officiating sucks. Something has to be done about it. Be curious to see what it looks like against Vandy. Hats off to Alabama. Hats off to their coaching staff. They won a game they could have lost. and they found a way to win in the final 5 minutes of the game. They clutched it out. Kentucky on the road against Vandy on the 25th. We've got Caleb Wilson news before that. A lot of things to talk about with Wilson, by the way. Is Kentucky going to get him? Do we want him at this point? What would he do for our program? What would he do for UNC? Apparently, he wants to be the number one option somewhere. With the inability to shoot threes, you kind of get into a weird spot there. We'll see. He's an uber talented kid. We'll see how it plays out for both Pope and for Hubert Davis and company. To be clear, I still want him. I still want him to come to Kentucky because I think he'd be good defensively. But anyway, that's a conversation for Monday. We'll continue to break it down here. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Sound off. I'm not like angry at this game. Like I'm not. It happens. You lose games to top 5 teams sometimes. But you'd like to have it back, but you need time to heal. Maybe that's the biggest thing we need to focus on coming out of this one. So that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Kentucky. Hey, you can follow the show on Twitter at Locked On UK. You can follow me on Twitter at Lance_, and follow the show over on Instagram. That is at Kentucky Podcast. Any questions, comments, concerns, leave those in the YouTube comments below. Hit me on the socials. I will see you all on Monday for another episode of Locked On Kentucky. Have a great rest of your day, everybody, and God bless. Seriously, though, like, please fix the officiating. Oh, so bad.